guys, what is going on? Uncle Valk here. After April, I've been really busy, but now that we're in May, I am back and I am here to talk about this new patch. With both Benimaru and ML Kayron dropping, I'm personally very excited for both of these guys, as we've, Epic 7 is a hero with a lot of powerful female units, a lot of booba, but we're finally in the age of husbandos, so let's see what these guys are all about. First thing, I noticed our boy Benimaru has a crit chance imprint. And, you guys smell that? That is a smell of cash game pay to win units. So, I'm already a little bit nervous, and we just started. Usually, crit chance self imprint is probably the highest value imprint, right? If you look at gear score on all of these units, crit chance imprint usually is an equivalent of like 25, 26 gear score off the top of my head. An attack, HP, or defense self-imprint, on the other hand, is worth somewhere about 18 gear score, right? So crit chance, effectiveness, and F-res imprints are usually the most value you'll get from self-imprints. So Benimaru being a collab hero, they're definitely trying to sell extra copies of him, so keep that in mind, guys, going forward. His passive. At the start of battle, gain 50 fighting spirit. At the start of an enemy's turn, dispel all debuffs from the caster and grant his unique buff multi-layer barrier. And then increase combat readiness by 25 up to 40%, I believe, and the effect can only be activated once every 2 turns. Fair enough, the buff is like a 2-turn cooldown, and it lasts for 2 turns. So it's gonna have 100% uptime at the condition your enemy will proc their extra turn. I do really like this buff. Increase hit chance by 50%, I think, is really powerful. It'll be really favorable into a lot of meta units like Eidolon, ML Violet. You're probably not going to be running a hit chance artifact, so you're still taking a little bit of a chance there, but overall, I would say it's good enough to just be played. And when your fighting spirit is full, he's going to activate his extra attack Hell Flare. And, you know, if the animation is to be believed, it is a lot of damage.
It traits the target's defense by 30%, and when the caster is granted multi-layer barrier, penetrates defense by an additional 30%.
Okay, so what we saw just there is really, really scary. But there's one really important problem for this unit. I think he's really strong. I think he counters extra turns sufficiently, but I think in RTA, this is what I call the Green Salim problem, which, you know, if you play Arena or if you play Guild Wars, I think these units will be perfectly fine the way they are. But the moment you're playing an RTA, right? So let's wind this back. What happens if we're playing this RTA match? Well, in RTA, what your opponent's going to do is use their Conqueror Lilias, not press S3, drop an S1 onto your Benimaru, right? What's going to happen to this Benimaru? Drop an S1 on the Benimaru, we're going to pull either Shu or Spectre Tenebria, 67% chance we're just going to be able to kill this unit out the gate. And even if we don't kill, right, what are we doing? We're pulling ML Kayron, we're pulling ML Crow, we give him speed buff, and he's going to run an AoE on our team, right? It's really, really bad. Oh my god, please don't do this. So in RTA, he's going to be played around, right? He can be counterplayed. And if you look at every single unit that has an extra turn that's considered a problem meta unit, right? Rand can skip his extra turn. Peyra easily skips her extra turn. See, Lilias skips an extra turn and she's still valuable. All of these meta units with extra turns don't directly get countered, right? You have to basically draft in a way where he's not a hard counter, he's what we call a soft counter. You force them to do something that skips their extra turn and they lose value, right? But it doesn't help beat them, because now what happens? You have this unit that can't activate, and if they don't activate, they're kind of a sitting duck for units like Shu and Spectre Tenebria, especially if you look at the CR bar, right? Yeah, if you look at the CR bar, if the Lilias doesn't walk, the Benimaru is stuck behind his tank, right? In terms of turn order, which lets the Lilias walk her units and just walk all over him. And you don't want that. In RTA, that's really bad. So, you know, I think he's an interesting unit. I think he's cool, but in RTA, I'm not too hot on him. Probably gonna pull a copy of him and then pull one artifact just to play with him. Speaking of his artifact, okay, I think this artifact is crazy. It gives him a free immunity set. It gives him a free set bonus for an offset, which is usually the value of roughly 20 gear score, right? If you think of a crit hit chance set, a HP set, a effectiveness set, it gives you 20 gear score. So we're already getting 20 free gear score worth of value. On top of that, it gives him a built-in attack buff, especially concerning the fact that he's going to have a buff for that first turn. I think this is going to be really good on units that need that turn 1 attack buff, especially for something, for example, like Strays, right? A unit that you would play with things like DJB, maybe an Ahmed, but sometimes, you know, they only give attack buff to one unit, or you have to somehow create your own attack buff, right? I think this artifact is actually really good and highly playable, but once again, it's not very good until you hit plus 30, because then what's gonna happen? You're running 90% chance, 95% chance for immunity, right? I personally wouldn't play this until I've bottled it to like 85% chance to proc, right? I think 85% chance is like generally where I consider a acceptable margin of error. As you guys know, like the debuffs in the game, will fail at a 15 and 8%, right? To me, that's the same odds as just rolling a 6-sided dice. And if you roll snake eyes and you just tell yourself, all right, today's not my day, this is not my game, my unit's just not gonna work. And it sucks, but if you play enough games, usually that's like the margin where you're like, whatever. All right, so that is Benimaru in a nutshell. I think he's generally really strong. You'll have probably a really good time playing him in Arena or Guild Wars, but in RTA, just beware, you're going to run into the green Salim problem, all right? It's Benimaru.
Such ignorance cannot be tolerated. For my single, enduring desire.
Oh boy, ML Kayron. I know a lot of people were waiting for this one, so if you're one of those people, shout out to my boy IC Go, congratulations. Whew, yeah. People have been waiting for this one for a long time. I know when Zahak came out, especially with all the concept art, it really looked like ML Kayron, ML Bologna, and ML Ludwig got canceled, right? For Zahak, Lua, and Zio. So good to see these guys back in the mix. So that being said, start breaking apart his kit. Once again, crit chance imprint. I already smelled that. I low-key have a cold these past 2 days, and I still smell the smell of Cash Game. They are dropping simultaneously a collab unit and an ML5. Both of those have crit chance self-imprints. Ooh, I don't know how many of y'all is gonna feel it, but some people's wallets are definitely be feeling this one. So GM says, who I believe voices these hero previews, he says he has very high health compared to other thieves. Scorpio thieves in general have extremely high health, but they have pretty crappy defense. And in general, it combines for a, I would say, below average bulk for a bruiser, just because, you know, you want your stats to both be mid, because they're gonna multiply, right? That's how effective HP works. You can't have one high and have none of the other, right? You can't be 20k HP and 1k defense, or 2k defense and 10k HP. It's not as good as like balancing it in the middle, 15k by 1500, right? That's like where you want to be. There's a sweet spot to this. So that tells me he's gonna have a hard time surviving. So let's see if he has any like buffs that's gonna help him cheat out survivability. Okay, passive. It's going to give him a free counter attack buff. And that tells me he's going to need ER. The buffs are nice, but I think in order to prevent your buff being stripped, 130 ER is going to be a baseline. It's going to be like, you know, when this video is coming out, it's going to be the same way Green Senya is played, if not more. But the cool part about this is it's going to let him get off of that counter set. Potentially, I would say lifesteal or destruction, or maybe even injury is going to be his best set. Also, this is a crazy passive, okay? It's going to let him gain 10 fighting spirit when an enemy has a buff. This is really important to pay attention to, because unlike Landy, who gets 10 fighting spirit per enemy buff, this means he only gets 10 fighting spirit regardless of how many buffs the enemy has. And that's important to take note of, because this means especially for him who has no other ways of generating fighting spirit. Your opponents need to have buffs for 1, and they need to take 10 turns total, which is 2.5 team rotations. So he's going to need to be able to survive 2.5 team rotations for a big CR cut. This is what, 50% off the top of my head? And it's going to give him the big mad buff. Okay.
At the end of
And the big mad buff is going to lead into his S3. It's a AoE attacks on all enemies, successfully inflicts 2,000 fixed damage. That's not a lot. When casters enrage, fixed damage increases to 10,000 on 4 targets. There we go. That's the juicy bits I'm looking for. When this skill is available according to cooldown count, decreased damage suffered by 30%. There's his built-in survivability, ladies and gentlemen. When suffering a critical hit. Okay. That's important to take note of. That means stuff like Last Rider Crow is going to still be able to nuke him. Rimuru is still going to be able to zap him and then hit him for 10k. Which is good because he does have really high base HP, but his defense doesn't really support, like, it doesn't bode well for surviving a Rimuru, right? More than 1 damage reduction effect is granted, only strongest effect is applied. Okay, so potentially we're going to reduce damage by 30%, and if we're playing with like a SC Airwall, that's another 30%, right? If we have Escort on our team. And yeah, this is going to be kind of ridiculous. It's going to be on 3-turn cooldown, but I don't think it matters too much because you're most likely holding this for the damage reduction effect, and you're waiting till he has Big Mad, and you're going to try to one-shot the entire enemy team. Overall, to me, Kayron looks really stat-hungry. Since he wants ER, he wants to be bulky, and he definitely wants some damage on S1 because you want to be able to sustain yourself. I think just relying on his S1 for the barrier isn't like a super viable strategy. You probably want lifesteal on top of that, and I think it's going to scale really well with something like Shepherd of the Hollow, his Kayron's own artifact. So taking everything that we know, right? This is the most important part. I think he can't be picked early, right? Because you'll be punished by Rimuru plus, like Last Rider Crow, Landy, Spectre Tenebri, right? This guy has buffs of his own. But I think that's fine because what he isn't a unit that's supposed to be picked early, like your A Ravi or whatever. I think what his identity is supposed to be is that he is a stat-hungry, ticking time bomb. And that kind of tells me he's going to be a good boss monster for tank down players. Now, if you play card games, you know what I mean, right? This guy's going to be essentially waiting out 10 turns. Like, your opponent has 10 turns to play Epic 7. And the moment those 10 turns are up and he is still alive on the board, no crowd control on his body, he is going to one-tap the crap out of the enemy team. And I think that's okay. A lot of people looked at this kid and they're like, I think he needs buffs. I don't really think so. I think what you're looking to do with ML Kayron is turn him into a boss monster for a tank down comp. And that's just kind of my take on it. If you play tank down, I think he'll be a really natural inclusion to you because 1, you're not picking him early, and 2, generally speaking against faster teams, 10k fixed damage plus his natural damage, he's gonna put the hurt on a lot of teams, and it's usually going to be a irrecoverable amount of damage. So overall, I don't think Benimaru is too good. Benimaru looks like the definition of mid, but ML Kayron looks like maybe an 8 out of 10 boss monster. So yeah, that's my takes on him. Okay, besides the 2 new heroes that we're getting, we'll also be getting round mode changes for RTA. I know this doesn't affect a lot of people, but E7WC is coming up, right? We should have our 3rd annual World Championships for RTA, and this should just make things in general a much easier to practice. So personally, I'm excited. I don't play super competitively myself anymore just because of doing different content as well as casting, but I have a lot of guildmates who are very excited to play for E7WC, and I'm excited to help them practice with the new round mode changes. So if that fits you as well, be sure to take advantage of that. And speaking of guild, Ancient Inheritance Season 6 is coming up, and it's coming up in 5 days from the release of this video. If you guys want to make sure to get like all the best rewards, which Ancient Inheritance, you know, it doesn't cost any additional stamina. It's completely free to enter. Make sure you guys are in a good guild. If you're looking for a guild, make sure to hit up the Discord, link in the description. Make sure you have an active guild that can at least get you into the last level to get the really, really, really juicy rewards. And honestly, make sure you guys get in on these, all right? But that's it from me for today. Hopefully, this is like a really exciting patch for you guys. I'm pretty excited. But for now, that's it from me for today. Thank you guys for joining me. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. If you guys want to have like further discussions on the game or even variety games, make sure you guys hop in the Discord, link in the description. And yeah, that's it from me. I don't know what else to say. I haven't done one of these for a while. Thanks, I guess. Like, subscribe, something. Bye.